I should say that I am Mel Rosenberg, and I'm the host of the Children's Literature Channel of the New Books Network. And with me is one of my favorite authors and people, Vivian Kirkfield. Vivian, welcome back. I can't believe it's been 4 years. We're going to have to do a lot of catching up today.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Mel. I could chat with you probably every day, so I don't know how 4 years went by. I guess we're both so busy.
So, because well, you're busy, and we chat quite a bit anyway,
That's true.
off off the air. So, Vivian, first of all, happy birthday, or as we say in Israel, Yom Holedet Sameach.
Thank
Um,
you.
you know how to say thank you in Hebrew?
No, I don't. How?
Todah,
Toda?
todah.
Toda.
Okay, and 2 days ago was also your birthday and the birthday of your brand new book, which we're going to talk about today. And it's called One Girl's Voice: How Lucy Stone Helped Change the Law of the Land. Yay! Published just 2 days ago
I know,
by
yay.
Calkin Creek with
Yeah.
a wonderful illustrator, wonderful illustrator. She should win an award for illustrations. It's incredible. Rebecca Gibbon, who loves to illustrate books about powerful women.
Yes.
Um, Show us this beautiful book. Talk about it for a few minutes. Why am I talking about it? You talk about it. Your book.
One Girl's Voice. This is a book that we so need right now because we're in this very odd and sad and crazy time when, especially in America, but in other places too, women are losing their rights or don't have rights, or their rights are being threatened. And this girl, I mean, Lucy Stone, when she was a girl, back in 1818, she was born in Massachusetts. She knew there was something wrong with how things were going. She knew it was wrong that her mother couldn't speak up in the house against whatever the father had said. She knew it was wrong that the neighbor was um, pushed around by her husband. She knew it was wrong that women couldn't speak in public forums. She knew it was wrong even when she was like 5 years old. And her entire life, she devoted to rectifying that wrong. And in her own time, which is amazing, there were changes made. And that's why it's called How Lucy Stone Helped Change the Law of the Land. Um, so I heard about her and I was researching somebody else for a different book, which is what happens very often when we're writing. And I thought, Lucy Stone, I didn't know anything about her. I actually never really heard of her. But what I was reading was that she was the one who influenced Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, who many people have heard of. They're like the suffragettes of the 1800s. But what I found out was that it was because they read what Lucy had written and they heard Lucy speak. And that's why they became women's rights advocates and activists. So I wondered, why do we know about those two guys and not this woman? And
Especially since she was the proto
yes,
voice.
she was the one who inspired them. And the more I found out about Lucy, the more I knew this was a book that young children, not just girls, but boys too, need to read because boys need to grow up to be men who respect and admire women and the intelligence of women and agree that women deserve to have rights. So it's important for boys and girls, but for girls, so that they know that they have a voice, that their voice matters, and that
So
one, go ahead.
yeah, that it's enough time enough talking about the wonderful Lucy Stone. Let's talk about the voice of the wonderful Vivian Kirkfield. Open the book, show the people who are watching the gorgeous cover,
Right. So
the
Rebecca
colorful
Gibbon,
spreads.
oh my God, Rebecca Gibbon is a magician. What a wonderful artist. Every page just leaps off the page and inspires us. She's given Lucy an amazing voice and an amazing persona. And almost every spread, you'll see there's like a text box or cursive writing. And those are Lucy's words because I thought in a book about one girl's voice, we need to hear the words of that girl, right? So in on almost every page, we hear Lucy's actual words. And you,
Vivian, I think that that's incredible.
yeah.
I want you to read a little bit so people can hear your incredible voice, because in addition to this brilliant idea of having her own quotes spread
Hmm.
throughout the book as part of the artwork,
Right.
um, your amazing ability to tell stories
Oh,
shines here.
thank you.
Read a little bit.
Okay. So I don't know if you can see me with my magnifying glass, but my eyes aren't working so well, so I'm getting some help here. Um, it begins. Let's get a little more light on this. In fact, let me just get up for 1 second and move this light so I have more light.
Okay.
Because
Let there be light.
let there be light. Exactly. Let there be light. All right, this is going to be a lot better.
And let there be love.
And let there be love. Oh, like,
In a minute, I'm going to start singing, Vivian.
all right. I would love that. Okay.
Okay.
So, so it's called One Girl's Voice, How Lucy Stone Helped Change the Law of the Land. Lucy's ideas, thoughts, and opinions bubbled up, ready to spill out. But in 1830, in Massachusetts and across the United States, the law said the voices of girls and women didn't count. And what Lucy says in her quote is, do not tell us from before we are born, even, that our province is to cook dinners, darn stockings, and sew on buttons. Now, Lucy, when she grew up, she did get married and she had a child and she loved to cook and bake and she loved to sew. So it's not that she thought women shouldn't do those things, but she didn't think that women should be told, even before they were born, that that's all they could do. And I love that. You know, she was womanly, she was feminine, she thought that was wonderful.
So Vivian, because I'm somebody who doesn't write very much nonfiction, and you're somebody who writes mostly nonfiction,
Right,
maybe with the exception of people in the Passover plate that we can talk about.
right, right,
Um,
right.
the You have an wonderful ability to take facts and weave them into a story. And you've done this before incredibly. I mean, one of my favorite books is your book on Marilyn Monroe and Ella Fitzgerald,
Yes.
which is another voice book.
Yes.
And your voice also shines out in that. How do you run us through this? So you pick somebody, you say, oh, Lucy Stone or
Right.
Ella and Marilyn.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm going to write a book, and then there's
Right.
so much work. It's almost like being a scientist, right?
Okay.
Running to the library.
You're
Oy vey.
right. You are 100% right. It's almost like being a scientist because you would have to do research. First, you get the idea, right?
The
Now,
hypothesis.
exactly. Now you go and do your research. Then you have to sift through the research to find the story. Because especially when you're writing nonfiction, there is so much information. You could write a textbook, but 8-year-old kids or 11-year-old kids or 6-year-old kids, they don't want to read a textbook. Well, they might, but they want to read a narrative. They want to read a story. They want something that engages them. They want something they can relate to. And so you have to find the doorway into the story as you're doing your research. So I do my research. First, I go online, look up the person, follow all the leads that I can online. Then maybe I'll take out some books, if there are books about that person. And then I'll see if there's anybody like a family person. If the, like, with some of the people I've written, there was some family person that I could talk to, or an expert, which in this book,
Hmm.
for this book, I had an expert who does performances, and
Hmm.
she's Boston based,
Hmm.
and she does performances in character of strong women characters in American history. And she did one on Lucy Stone, and I saw it, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to write a story about that person. So it's basically the idea, then the research, then finding the path into the story and picking out the the moments that children will relate to, right? So in most of my nonfiction, we start with the character as a child, right? So here's Lucy, and here's her family. And again, we see her words up there, that now they're hanging. I'm sure they weren't hanging in her house in 1830, but and she says there was only one will in our house, and that was my father's. So all through the book, I mean, she goes to school, and even though she's so smart and she raises her hand before all the boys, the teacher calls on the boys. And in church, the minister says women should be silent because that's what it says in the Bible. And do you know what Lucy does? She runs home and she cries to her mother, and she says that they said it says that in the Bible, women should be silent. And her mother says, "Yeah, I know. That's yeah, that's what it says." And Lucy says, "I am going to study Latin and Greek." And she's like 8 years old. "I'm going to study Latin and Greek because I know that the Bible has been mistranslated." And and of course, when she's done with her one-room schoolhouse school, maybe she's 16 at the time, and she says she wants to go to college, her father says, "Is that girl crazy? Because she's only just going to get married and have babies, and she already can read and she can do 1 plus 1, and that's all she needs." But Lucy is determined. Lucy is determined.
Vivian, we could talk about Lucy Stone a lot, but let's talk about Vivian. Um, you're much younger than me, but I grew up in the 50s and 60s
I
when
grew up in the 50s and 60s. I am not much younger than you. I just turned
okay.
78. So
Oh,
there you go.
well, Mazel tov. So you're a little bit older than I am. Surprisingly. So we grew up during an era where women were silenced, where
Yes.
women were supposed to stay at home with the vacuum cleaners.
Uh-huh.
But is there a Vivian Kirkfield story here? Because you keep sticking up for voices.
Yes.
Did you have to stick up for your voice as a child?
I was called the peacemaker because I did not speak up for myself. I was a very timid child and I was happy. I had a lot of friends, but people called me shy. I wasn't really shy because I loved people, but I was afraid to go new places and I was afraid to do new things. And I was timid and pretty voiceless for a very long time. I married my college sweetheart, and throughout most of our marriage, I was pretty quiet, right? And there were things that I might have changed or done differently, but I thought, okay, so I'm sometimes I'm sorry I did not have more of a voice then.
But
But
but but you
it's
but
never too late.
yeah, to paraphrase Phil Oakes, but you sure do now.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
so that's and the past couple of years since I've known you, you jump out of airplanes,
Well, see, so I was going to say,
climb into volcanoes, you make
yes,
friends with the Komodo dragons.
almost.
You're really out there.
I am out there and you talk about the skydive. Well, and that is what empowered me. So when I turned 64, so I was a kindergarten teacher because, that was my heart. That's what I wanted to do. And I did lots of things in my life. But when I turned 64, my son gave me this very unusual birthday gift. He took me skydiving.
Mhm.
And the best part of that was when my feet touched the ground, I knew that if I could jump out of a perfectly good airplane, I could probably do anything. And that next year, I jumped into the kidlit world, writing for children. And that was 2012. And voila.
Vivian, you were one of my first interviewees. And I remember you talked about breaking in by a book that you had written and self-published.
Yes,
The people that I interview, most of them have a story. Like they didn't break in by sending an anonymous manuscript to a slush pile.
right,
Some did, but most did.
right.
And you had a successful book that you self-published. A sentence or two about that.
Yeah, so when I was teaching kindergarten, then I was running a daycare for teachers' children. It was like a nursery school. I always loved picture books, always loved picture books as a child and then as an adult. And so every day in my kindergarten classes and in my daycare, every day started with a picture book. And we would,
Hold on, because
yeah.
we're about the same age. What were your favorite picture books as a child? What was read to you that you remember?
Okay, so The Little House by Virginia Lee Burton. It probably had just been published when I was, like when I was 2 or 3. It was probably a pretty new book. Millions of Cats. I mean, those old ones. Um, yeah, I mean, all the golden books. I loved the golden books, like the
Hmm.
fairy tales. I loved fairy tales. I loved the Baba Yaga, whatever her name was, with the house on the chicken legs, right? I was definitely into fantasy. And I just loved the words. I loved escaping into that story, right? Into that story.
I,
But I
I was
also,
ho I was hoping you'd mention my favorite, which is Madeline.
oh, Madeline. I love Madeline. In
Now, okay,
fact, yes, in fact, yeah, I love Madeline. And it's in that book, that Show Me How book. So this was the book that, I self-published. And Madeline is one of the stories. And so after my kids were grown and married and off, my husband said, you really need to write that book that you always said you would write, the book that's going to help parents and teachers choose stories for their children and do projects, spend time with them, right? Spend time with your kids because it goes really quickly and it's important for them because every minute that a parent spends with their child is a minute that that child feels valued, right? Feels worthwhile. And because they know their parents are busy. So if you spend time with your child reading a story or doing, like in this book, activities. So every story is paired with a craft activity and a cooking activity. So it's pretty cool. And there are 100 stories and 100 projects. And so that was a lot of fun to write. And I self-published it. And now I had 1,000 copies of this book. And what was I going to do with that? Because if you self-publish, you have no distribution other than going around knocking on doors of libraries and little bookstores in your town. Hi, I'm Vivian Kirkfield. Would you like to buy this book? It's so. And that for a timid person, that was a nightmare. But I did it. And then I started blogging because everybody said, oh, that's how to connect with your audience. You blog. So I began blogging, and I am very tech unsavvy, right? Technology intimidates me, but I did it anyway because I had to. And I wanted to connect with parents and teachers. And I began connecting with parents and teachers and people who were writing, well, who were reviewing picture books and writing picture books. And I began to think, maybe I could do that. And then my son took me skydiving.
so this was
And
all when you were 64.
yes. And when I was 65, I jumped in. I joined 12 by 12 with Julie Headland. I was doing Tara Lazar's Story
Story
Storm.
store. Mhm.
I mean, I was just doing Susanna Leonard Hill's contests. I was doing it all. And my whole
We should mention SCBWI
I joined SCBWI right away. In
and
fact,
Kidlit.
this is my 15th year with SCBWI, right? I should get one of their little, they have these little logos. So I have one up on my blog, on my website, and it's for 10 years, but now it's 15. So, and what I loved most of all, Mel, was the kind and generous atmosphere that I found in Kidlit, especially picture book Kidlit. And I was like, I found my
Vivian,
home.
hold on a second. You have because you are also one of the nicest people in children's Kidlit. I've been a recipient of your generosity from way back, as of many, many others. And we'll talk about 50 precious words in a moment. An explanation why people in this, I won't call it business, in this calling are so nice to each other?
I think part of it is because we're all in touch with our inner child because we're writing picture books. So we're reading picture books.
We're all 5 years old.
we're all 5 years old or 7 years old or whatever. And so we haven't been ruined. I don't know if that's not a good word, but we have,
It's as good as any, you know.
right. We haven't been jaded. We haven't been there's not the same kind of competition as there is in even YA or maybe even middle grade, I don't know, and corporate America for sure. So like if you need help, I want to help you. If I need help, you want to help me. You don't think in your mind, oh, wait, no, I can't help her with that story because I might want to write a story about that one day in 10 years. Or, oh, I won't share my secret of how I find a way to write a good beginning. No, everybody is just gushing out with their help, with any secrets of success that they might have, because there's room for everybody. There's room for everybody. If you keep at it and if you do your homework, take classes. Well, my
Lots of
friend
homework.
Steve, right?
What was
You
it? Well, because I'm just gonna like you're helping me segue into the interview. So I was just gonna ask you. I know perseverance is your main P, but you have
yes,
five more.
right. Exactly. So the first one is passion, because you're probably going to be rewriting that manuscript 100 times, changing things. And if you don't love it and you don't love what you're doing, you're going to hate it. So you really have to be passionate about this is what I want to do.
I'm just gonna add that it's not just revising the manuscript dozens of times. It's the writing hundreds of query letters when you know you're going to get rejected.
Right.
Um, there's a lot of there's a lot of angst
There's
as part
so
of
much
this.
angst. It's a space that's filled with rejection.
But you know,
And
Vivian, when passion comes from a Christian thing of Jesus and pain and angst.
oh,
So,
yeah, I'm not
so
thinking of that kind of passion.
no, no, but there is in this kind of passion, there
Right.
is suffering. Let's face it.
Yes. I mean, my agent sends me an email every week. That's her thing. She sends emails every week.
Wow.
It's kind of an update. Hi, the weather is great, or, going.
Let's mention her because she's terrific.
Yes, Essie White at Storm Literary. I signed with her in 2015, toward the end of 2015. And so I've been with her 10 years now. I love her. She loves me, I think. And I think she's worked really hard for me. And she's just a good
What's
person.
not to love, Vivian? She's a
I,
wonderful person, and
right,
and seven picture books later,
right.
and
And
you've won a
two more coming
yeah.
next
We'll
year.
talk about that in a minute. So and you've won awards, and your writing is spectacular. The books are spectacular.
You're very
Um,
kind.
and
Thank
and and one of the wonderful things about is that you do so much for free and so much without requesting anything in return. So let's do the five P's, and then we're going to
Right.
segue to
Okay, so
the other
passion,
P, which is the precious words.
that's right.
Okay.
So passion. The next one is practice, because you have to practice. Whether you want to be a ballerina or a soccer player or a writer, you have to practice what you're
Well,
doing.
where were you 40 years ago when I thought that I knew how to write? Okay, so
I also thought I knew how to write.
passion, practice,
Then preparation. So take
preparation. Yeah.
classes, yes, or go to webinars or conferences or whatever. Patience, because it takes a long time. And be patient with yourself. Be
I mean,
kind to
you
yourself.
can die 20 years before you get a publishing deal.
Well, you can. but I'm still writing.
You're a beacon for everybody else. And look, even
Because
I have a publishing deal now. So I mean, if you
I
wait
know
long
I'm
enough,
so
you,
excited.
you suffer hundreds of rejections. And
Hundreds of rejections, right? And the
so we
last
have patience, did you have perspiration, perspicaciousness?
we
I
should
can't
have
remember.
perseverance, perseverance,
Okay,
practice,
that's my number
preparation,
one. Practice,
and
preparation,
patience. I
and
think
patience.
I think the most important is the perseverance because if you don't have that, you're dead in the water. I mean, you're gonna just walk away. And it's not, there's nothing wrong in walking away. If if you've been at it for a while and it's not giving you joy, maybe something else is what you need to be doing. I don't know. But, or put it away for a while and do something else. Because it's not for everybody. It is a lot of rejection. My agent sends me this update every week, and in every single update, she'll be like, okay, I sent sculpting stories, or I sent um, Hope is a home run, or I sent whatever. And, this editor said, oh, I was in love with it. It's beautiful, but I'm not acquiring it. Or I really didn't like the writing and I didn't like the voice. So thanks anyway. I mean, I don't know which rejection is worse, right? The one that where they loved it so much, but they're not going to buy it, or the one where they didn't
But,
love it.
but, but still, Vivian, we have to wake up every morning and say we're in a good place
Yes,
to have agents, to have book deals, and to be in this
I
position
feel
because
blessed. Yeah.
we are blessed because that's what we are. Now, as a blessed person, Vivian, you've decided to be a benefactor, and you spend a lot of your time helping others, and all voluntarily. And this 50 Precious Words is a huge enterprise. Tell us about it because it's coming up, isn't it?
It's coming up. I have an adult contest and I have a children's challenge. So the adult contest is during Read Across America week, which is Dr. Seuss's birthday. And I invite writers to not send, but to post on the official 50 Precious Words post, which is going live on March 2nd, um, to post their 50-word story, or 49-word, or 40-word, or if you can tell a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end in 10 words, you can do that. And I started it back in 2016 on a whim. And I invited people to come to my blog. And don't forget, in 2016, I didn't have any books. I had just gotten my agent. We had just gotten a book deal, but I was still pretty new. And I thought probably 10 people would send me a story, but no, 128 people posted stories. And the winner, I had 20 prizes. My agent had said she would do a critique. That was a nice prize. And a author friend said they would do a critique or signed books or whatever. And so I read all 128 and I chose this sweet little rhyming story about a tiger, right? And it was called Little Tiger. And I didn't know the author of that little 50-word story, but I chose her as the winner. She chose my agent as her prize to send a story. She sent that story. My agent loved it. My agent asked to see more, signed her, and Julie Abery in Switzerland now has 8 books in the Little Animal series, and this is the first one, and they're board books. So pretty much is 50 words, or maybe it's 70 words. But yeah, and people, it's amazing, right? And last year we had 672 submissions and 60
Wow.
prizes. And I have editor submission opportunities, agent opportunities, a 2-day retreat at Highlights Foundation in Pennsylvania. Those are some of the prizes. So there are 60 amazing. I give a mentorship named for Paula Martin Cohen, who published her first author illustrate. She was an author illustrator. Her first book in 2022, one, but she died suddenly um, a few weeks before her book launched. And so I created a mentorship in her name because I had had her on my blog post like a few weeks before, and I was so sad and I wanted to honor her, how she had helped others because she was like that, always helping other people. And so, right, so that's one of the prizes for 50 Precious Words. And I have seven judges, seven assistant judges, diverse judges who help me. And we read the stories and then we get together and chat and choose our favorites. And the story that gets 8 judge votes is the top winner. And then, depending on how many votes they got, we order the whole list. But the best thing about the contest, not that it gets people book deals or agents, but it gets them writing and it inspires them to believe in themselves. And it's such a beautiful, positive community. I mean, in 2021, we had 11,000 comments on that blog. 11,000. We had like 700 stories, but 11,000 comments because people come and they comment. And not one comment was negative, all positive. Now, where, Mel, I ask you, in this world, can you find that? A safe space where everybody is joyful and encouraging and supportive. And so that's what I'm most happy about with 50 Precious Words. But it's true. Every week I get an email from somebody who says, "Oh my gosh, I have to tell you, but the story that I, did 3 years ago or 5 years ago in the contest, I got a book deal." Now, maybe it's not 50 words, maybe they expanded it. In fact, in 2021, Federico Arabia wrote a 50-word story, and he didn't even win, but he wound up taking that story and writing a 50,000 word YA novel. And those 50 words are actually, you'd think I would have are actually the last 50 words of the story.
Wow.
And it was the first time he had written about his childhood experiences.
Incredible. So,
And
so
so,
Vivian, I want to, I tried to have a contest and I got one submission. You have some ability, an uncanny ability, to connect people, to draw people in, to have this wonderful Vivian's web of authors around the world. And I'm talking to you, and you're spending most of your time extolling other people's virtues, and that's just the incredible person that you are. So now I want you to brag about your upcoming books.
okay, sure. So next year, it was actually supposed to come out this fall, but I believe even though it's on bookshop.org, not the cover, but the book, it's called, and it hasn't even been announced yet, but I'm announcing it. It's called Pippa's Hanukkah Hunt, and it's a
Ah,
sequel to Pippa. Yes. And
What's a lady named Vivian Kirkfield writing Jewish books? Tell me.
well, so my background is Jewish, right? I mean, I grew up in New York City but um when I got married, I converted. But we are who we are.
No, I
And
mean I know, and I think it's terrific. But you know what? The first time I saw the book and I saw Vivian Kirkfield, I said, "Oh my goodness, that's not Owen voices." But of course, it is.
right, it
So
was, yeah,
yeah.
right.
So you have now.
People say to me, "Are you Jewish?" I said, "Well, yes and no." So that's what it is. It's yes and no. I mean, yes, I am. I mean, you are who you are. If you were born in I don't know, some other country and lived there for X number of years, you may come to another country and then live there even longer
That
and
that that
consider
that
yourself
that
that.
that that's me, Vivian.
Right,
And I spent most of my years here in Israel, but I'm still Canadian in many ways.
right, exactly.
Um,
So you still have in your heart your
mhm.
roots, right? Your
So
roots, whether
so
they're
so Pinchas
heritage.
Chanukah,
Yes.
what gets lost?
Okay, so she wants to invite her friends for Hanukkah, and she wants to make latkes, of course. And she goes down to her cellar, and there's no potatoes. There's only a little bowl that has some carrots. She's like, "Where are my potatoes?" And of course, reader, the child reader, is going to see through the window hints of who it is who is taking the potatoes. She goes to her friend the cat. Can I borrow? And it's got rhyme and a refrain, and the cat says, "Oh, sure, of course, anything for you, Pippa." And they go down to her
Pippa, 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 you
Pippa.
made it out of clay. Right.
Right, right, right. And so there's no potatoes. There's only a couple of leeks. Okay. So now that she goes to the owl, he's got no potatoes. So we revisit all her friends. And in the end, I won't tell the ending, we discover who was taking the potatoes and why. And they join the celebration because the end is always the unity, so those books are all based on like four major Jewish values, even though they're everybody's values, so hospitality, friendship, community, charity, like that's part of those that series. So that's coming out. And
Okay.
then
Vivian, when you talk about this, you're so animated. Um, I
I love these stories.
no, but I don't understand why you don't write more fiction. It's more fun. Less libraries.
Not for me. That's the thing. Because in fiction, you have to come up with your character. You have to develop your character. You have to come up with a plot, an arc. In nonfiction, I don't know, Lucy Stone, she did the whole arc. That's her life. Or Marilyn Monroe and Ella Fitzgerald or whatever. So for
Yeah.
me, I don't have to create a character.
Hmm.
Those are the characters. So I guess I write fiction, but
I
it's
know.
maybe not so good.
Maybe it's wonderful. We'll see when the Hanukkah comes out. We might have
Right, right,
another.
right, right. No, that's a really good story. That's a really good story.
I'm sure it is. And it's coming out next year with whom?
Next fall, right? September, I
Hmm.
believe. And if it comes out, if I find out it's coming out this year, I'll let you know.
But
It
who's
was
publishing
supposed
it?
to. Holiday House.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
yeah, Holiday House, right. They did the other one. So um
Holiday, holiday books with Holiday House.
right.
What could
Although
what could get better?
they do a lot of different books,
No,
but
no, I know. I'm being a little facetious because that's who
right,
I
right.
am.
No, no, you're
Um,
right. You're right.
okay, so
And I
Vivian,
have
we're
another book coming out.
Yeah,
A board book
a
with
board book.
PJ Publishing.
Amazing.
Right. And it's called Friends Count. And it's a counting book for very, very, very young, board book for very, very, very young children. And it's about children in a home daycare, like I had, and how each day of Hanukkah another child comes. So it's very diverse. There's very diverse children, but they're lighting the menorah and they're eating latkes and they're spinning the dreidel and doing all the things. And it's a little bit rhyming.
All the Hanukkah stuff.
All the Hanukkah stuff, exactly. So
And,
yeah,
and
so I'm
I
very
should
happy.
tell the viewers of this that PJ Library in the States turns down 99.9% of the manuscripts that it gets.
Right.
So again, Vivian, you're the one in a thousand, but really you're the one in a million. Um, and
You're so, you too, Mel,
I
honestly.
no, honestly, you are the lady. So let's close off with another quotation from Lucy Stone and your wonderful book, and show us
Okay.
one of the spreads and another quotation, and
Okay.
um, and then we have to sign off.
All right. So this is my favorite spread,
Okay.
the last spread,
Mm-hmm.
and it's Lucy. She's already older now. She's speaking to this group of boys and girls, and the signpost says, I have done what I wanted to do. I have helped the women. Because by the time this happens, she has just been invited to speak at Oberlin College at their graduation, even
Incredible.
though 30 years before, she had been told, yes, we want you to write the valedictorian speech, but
For a guy to read it.
for a guy to read it, right? So in her own time, Lucy has made a difference. And I love
Incredible.
that. I love that because
What
one
what what?
girl's voice.
Yeah. What is Vivian's voice on the last page?
What is Vivian's voice?
Yeah.
You mean the
How did you?
acknowledgement?
No. How did you finish the book?
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
This interview is about you, Vivian.
Right. So it says, no longer barred from speaking, Lucy Stone stood on the podium and shared her ideas, thoughts, and opinions, right? Because in the beginning it says she had thoughts, ideas, and opinions that bubbled up, but she couldn't speak. So now she's sharing her thoughts, ideas, and opinions because one girl's voice had changed the law of the land so that all voices could be heard. So that's the last word, so that all voices could be heard. So I mean, there were other people in that battle to advocate for women's rights. She wasn't the only one.
Vivian, look what you have done in your career, right?
It's
Enabling
amazing.
hundreds and thousands of other authors to be heard.
Right.
Um, I'm not going to write a book about you because I don't do nonfiction, but somebody should.
You're very kind. I feel blessed that I have had this opportunity, that I have garnered the courage to write that Show Me How book and start blogging
And
and
and you've shown everybody how. And
connect.
and on behalf of the writers community and the children who read your books and the children who read books that you helped others publish, a huge, giant, universal, global, cosmic thank you to you.
Thank
And
you. Thank you.
congratulations on your birthday book. I
Thank
was just
you.
I was just writing about how important it is to have a short title. Um, and your your book is called One Girl's Voice: How Lucy Stone her helped change the law of the land. Next
Right.
time we're going
So
to talk about short titles.
the key is the main title needs to be short and catchy. In
Uh,
nonfiction, especially, you can have, I don't know, 50 words in your subtitle.
okay. Okay.
Right.
This was wonderful. Vivian, so happy birthday and
Thank you.
keep up your wonderful work as an author, as a mentor, as a sharer. And I have been with Vivian Kirkfield, who just published a wonderful book with Calkin's Creek, illustrated by Rebecca Gibbon. And it's called One Girl's Voice and many other words that follows
Right.
about the life and teaching of Lucy Stone. Vivian, it's been incredible having you. I'm Mel Rosenberg. I'm the host of the Children's Literature Channel for the New Books Network. Run out and buy Vivian's gorgeous new book.
Thank you so much, Mel. Thank you for having me.
Bye, dear.